Hey everybody, once again, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are and watching this video. Welcome to some D&D 5e, or as I play it, on Foundry VTT. And a lot can happen in 24 hours. My video the other day was version 0.53. Today, 0.55 has been released, I should say. What you're seeing right now is actually the Foundry website. So it was released on the pre-purchase, so you guys can actually go to foundryvtt.com and actually purchase it. Create an account. If you have a Patreon, log in. It is $50. Will be out on May 22. But in the meantime, the version 0.55, which we'll be talking about tonight, has some pretty cool features, and we're gonna just jump right into it. So let's do that. So as I ended last night just kind of talking a little bit about the initial setup, tonight we're going to add a game system and actually check on some add-on modules. So the release improved a few things dramatically. Previously, before, you had to go out to the Foundry website or GitHub or GitLab, find a manifest JSON file, paste it in there to add a module. Well, now this is super awesome. So the game systems part of the release is the ability to search for it right here. And people are wondering how many systems are out there. Being a neutral open system, as you can tell, there are a good number of them. Obviously I'm only running 5e, but there's Warhammer. In fact, there's a couple, as I mentioned on the other video, there's a couple of videos on YouTube of Warhammer, and it looks absolutely amazing. In fact, I might install this just so we can kind of see what it looks like. But Pathfinder 2e, Starfinder, which I'm excited about. I enjoy that, and who knows what else. So it's super easy. You can probably even do a search here, and it'll kind of narrow it down. So, or if you know a game module independently, you can paste the manifest install here. To install it, it's just a matter of just really clicking on install. The system will go out there. You'll see it downloading. Little progress taskbar will show up here and be done here in a few seconds, hopefully, depending on how much traffic there is. And oh, there it is. There it goes. Then once it's done and install, you'll see it here in your available game systems to do that. And you can kind of see what it's made out of. A lot of them, again, this is a Node.js app, so JavaScript, CSS. You got some local language localization. You can check for updates manually. You can update everything. A lot of really cool things onto that. We'll touch on modules later on, but let's go ahead and launch a game with this. So we'll go to Game Worlds. Let's go ahead and create a new game world. Let's call this one Warhammer. My drop down now has it. No background image. We'll go ahead and add it. Let's go ahead and create this world. Now I've got it. Let's go ahead and launch it. Let's see what happens. Game session. Initially you are only the game master, so whether you connect in the desktop application is what I'm using here, or the browser. Game master is not going to have an access key, so if you have a publicly facing game out in the web, or your ports are open, make sure you set an access key. Do not use a password that you might use somewhere else, because I don't believe it's fully encrypted in the database, and it could easily be compromised. That's my security tip for the day. All right, let's go ahead and jump in, and that looks way super cool because I have never used Warhammer. Migration, we'll go ahead and say begin migration. All right, whatever that means. So you can see right off the top, from a styling standpoint, CSS, this absolutely looks super cool. Just the visualizations of it. Can collapse and expand. Game settings tells you what you're playing. Configure settings, manage modules, configure players. And we'll get into all this. I'll probably go back to the D&D one just because I'm a little bit more familiar with that, but I really wanted to see what this looked like because this is super cool. So this looks like the Warhammer compendiums that are already in the system, so you can kind of see. Oh, maybe we'll just stick with this because it looks way cool. Wow. All right, so before I get to it, let's just jump real quickly, and we'll do this with this one because the features of Foundry are pretty much the same no matter which system that you're using. When you log in, you got the anvil. Up here, you'll see different scenes as you add stuff. Some people have actually modified this, putting it clickable. Down here is your player view screen. So if you got more players connected, you'll see what they are. You can always right-click on the players and right-click on information, actually change your color. So if you don't like purple or whatever, you can change that color out. Change your avatars. So if you've got a different avatar that you might want to use, so let's say for me, I want to pick a dwarf male blunderbuss because why not? And there you go. There's my Game Master avatar for what it's worth. Other players can do as well. Down here is the macro bar. You can have shortcuts and macros can be put in here. Foundry has two macro systems, abilities. One is chat macros, the other is script macros, and we'll talk about again later on. A lot of this we'll talk about, just so much can be kind of like, whoa, overwhelming. Clicking the folder brings up a directory where you can search stuff, you can create things, all the good stuff. Over here on the right, this is kind of, if you're familiar with, I think Astral, the little bit I played with, Roll20 especially, has this kind of general information bar on the left. This is going to be your chat window where all your chat's going to come across. The ability as a GM to make public, private, blind, self rolls. You can export your chat logs, clear the chat logs. So if you're doing a lot of testing and you got some secrets up there before your game starts, hit that delete button. So anything that happens here is going to happen here. The combat tracker, with most tabletop systems, this is where the combat tracking is going to happen. A couple ways you can do that. Highlighting all, right-clicking, adding them. You can create an encounter manually or whatever. There's some options that you can track. You can track different resources like armor class or something like, or speed or whatever that you kind of see visually here on that. Third one is your scenes directory. So scenes would be, if you're familiar with another virtual tabletop, are your different maps and different areas that you can kind of go into. Actors are as what they are, right? PCs, NPCs, all that good stuff. Items directory, journal entries, create stuff, searchable tables. You know what? I'm going to actually switch out. As cool as their stuff is here, and I don't know squat on this. We're going to go to actually what actually a game that I'm actually building out right now. That way I can kind of show you what I'm doing from a D&D 5e. But before that, let's dive super quickly into modules. And you'll see here a lot of compatibility unknown. With the release to 5.5 today, all the module authors have to go and actually update their JSON files. You say, hey, this is compatible with this version. And if they haven't done it, you'll get an error update. So it doesn't know if these modules are compatible or not. I'll dig into another video on just modules because that's a whole nother world, and modules are pretty awesome. But anyways, let's go ahead and update all my modules and actually see if they actually are. You can see some are updated, checking updates. So it looks like the furnace has not been fully updated. VTT assets, invalid manifests. Some others have. So I'm going to have to actually go in here and check those to find out, what's going on, and kind of see, what may or may not happen. So I'm not going to worry about this. It should not prevent me from playing the game. Let's go ahead and launch this world, the Delian Tomb. It's the Matt Colville adventure. I'll go ahead and log in as the game master. Hopefully I typed in my passkey correctly there. And I'm already almost at my 10-minute mark, and I'm trying to keep these videos to 10 minutes. When a game first starts, it's going to be paused. So, which is really nice. Now we don't have players that get on before you and they start moving characters around and things like that, and kind of spoiling the game, especially if you have dynamic lighting and some of the fog of war turned on and everything. So obviously this is the 5e. This is the view from the app, not from the browser. But as you can see, it looks very similar, just different CSS theme. I have a couple scripts. I've got token vision on right now. Got some plugins that show some different features. Ignore token vision. A couple things over here. So let's continue like we had mentioned here. Combat encounter. The scenes directory. So I've got two. One I'm building, which is not active yet. It's going to be the Tavern of the Green Monkey, where the adventurers will start. Then the Delian Tomb, which is where this begins. So you can go into the Configure Screen button, and this is where you can add some journal notes that link to it, add your image, which is your map. It will detect the size of it automatically, and then of course you can pick a background color. You see I've got a gray, but I actually pan some black here, just experimenting with getting rid of some of the gridded dead space with that. Grid type, you can kind of set what your grid. There's even this really cool thing, the grid configuration tool, because not every system you put out is going to be 100% accurate from a grid line. So you got this really cool grid configuration tool that you can actually go in there, and if you see the red grid lines, they actually line up with what I have there. So if I scale something out, so let's say as an example, and I spin, my background image scale, and I change it. If you notice, the grid lines now change because I'm changing the numbers, the scale with it. Same thing with the grid size. So you can hold down the Alt or use your mouse wheel, and you notice the grid size was 69, now it's 70, 71. It changes it slightly. So as you're making your maps and adding them, you want to make sure your grid sizes and everything can be aligned. So it's a great feature there. Exit out, save it, continue on. Set your grid distance, 5 feet in my aspect. Color the grid, opacity. Token vision is basically as the tokens are out there, you get the ability to have vision on them, see what kind of colors they have. Not colors, but lighting, etc. Global illumination, fog exploration. I have not played with that. Ambience and atmosphere. You can have an audio playlist, which I have in my other game. It's super cool. As they get into battle, it'll kind of randomly play some battle music. Weather effects. So the default game core has only a few, but there's a third-party module that adds a lot more effects in it. So for instance, let's add some bats, because this is a cave, type of thing. Initial view position. If you want to scale where the adventure is going to start when they log in, this is where you set that. Then accessibility, permission to see who controls it. Let's go ahead and save it. And you'll notice, all of a sudden, look, there's bats. Isn't that cool? There's also the weather module. Again, this is not core. It gets you the ability to add some of these weather effects here on the side, so you can turn this off. Again, this is some of the features that you don't have in some of the others, or you might have to pay extra for it. Would be really super cool if you could have like bats in certain areas, or it would random and change from bats to like leaves. But the module's fairly new, but there's some cool stuff the developer is working on. The tokens. This is the actors directory. So I've got my test character. I've got a D&D Beyond module that I'm using to import stuff from D&D Beyond for my account there. It's like I want the D&D Beyond stats, so bugbear, goblin boss, undead, skeletons. It'll pull all their stats and information off that. What they can do, add their tokens, their images. Prototype token is the token when every time this actor is placed on the canvas, the prototype token basically, is what it is. So you can actually have different ones. Little kid I'm creating, not done yet. Journal entry or search. This is for items directory. I don't have anything. You can create items and folders. Journal entries, same thing. You can create an entry. create new entry, and then start typing, right? You hit the edit button. They got a little editor, and then when you're done, you hit save entry, and now you've got that. You can actually show it. You can add text, you can add images. Again, similar to a lot of the journal entries from a lot of other VTTs. Great if you're taking a lot of notes or you don't want to reference another tab or a PDF or something like that. You can put your adventure information. Again, I have a module that shows kind of player permission. Another cool thing about the adventure info, you can drag it to the canvas. So let's say I want a certain area where I want to have the note, and so now I can have it on the board. Oh, I forgot to do that. Let's go ahead and update note. So now as I'm panning around, I'm like, ooh, here's the adventure info. Let's double click that, and I can kind of see immediately what's happening. So super cool. Haven't done a ton with it, but super awesome. Rollable tables, we'll deal into that a little bit later. Again, a huge part of any kind of VTT, rollable tables, monsters, items, loots, NPC events, audio playlist, and then the compendium packs. So I've got the SRD stuff. So now you have the SRD, which is all the open source stuff. Some of it has, creature images and stuff. A lot do not. So you can always import this into your game and then change it. I have some D&D Beyond stuff that I'm importing in manually. So, I've got some of those as well. Some of the spells within the SRD as well. So you can add those to your game. All very valuable. And then of course the settings and what we can do and manage in there. Again, you can't really break a lot if you're playing with stuff, but it's definitely easy way to just I spend I think a good bit of my time playing with it, just trying to figure out trying not to break things and everything. This video has gone really long, and but it's hopefully it's been informative and everything. Again, this is 5.5 beta, and we'll get another one out that we'll dig it a little bit more into some of the more features. But again, hopefully as you guys are digging into it, just trying to figure out how Foundry works, that this is informative. Again, feel free to click and view the other ones. I do have a longer video of some gameplay session. Again, I'm not a pro DM, but I like to have fun with some friends, and we're all figuring things out as we go on this journey. But hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you later.